Welcome to the Church Solutions Podcast, brought to you by JSL Solutions. The Church Solutions Podcast is designed to help equip you and your church in the use of technology and other tools and services. And now, here are your hosts, Steve Lacy and Phil Thompson.
Welcome to another edition of the Church Solutions Podcast.
Hi, my name is Steve Lacy.
And I'm Phil Thompson. Good to be with you today. We're a tech company that helps churches, helps ministries. We help them with technology as well as enabling volunteers and pastors because we have lots of ministry experience and we're here to serve the church, right?
We are.
So our guest today is somebody that has been on the internet since the 1980s, before there was an internet. He also helped start a company back in 2001 who helped serve churches with website templates and kind of, I guess you'd call it social media tools before Facebook or even before MySpace. Company eventually moved into streaming video and mobile apps. And he has a lot of experience in the aerospace industry. He's a degreed engineer. Can you guess who we're talking about today?
Who are we talking to today?
It's you. We're going to interview Steve Lacy today, who's the president, founder, and CEO of JSL Solutions. And, of course, we do streaming video, streamingchurch.tv, and mobile apps, as I just mentioned, churchapplive.com, and the mothership, myflock.com.
That's right.
So I don't think have we ever interviewed you? We've been doing this for years, but I don't know if we ever really have.
I've been on this podcast before, I think.
But, well, you've been on the podcast every week. But I thought it would be good for people to learn a little more about you. We may have done this a long time ago, but we're talking years ago. But I thought it would be good for a lot of different reasons for people to learn a little more about you and how this company started. In a lot of ways, it's like a ministry. So I made the comment about you being involved on the internet in the 1980s. Can you clarify that a little bit for us?
Yes. As you mentioned, I was in the aerospace business and working for defense contractors, and those that are really nerdy, I guess like me, know that the internet started as an ARPANET with and they grew to work with some defense contractors mainly, defense contractors and universities. And so I was actually, to think about it today, that what I was doing was we were having 3D models printed back. That's another thing that's really cool now is the 3D printing. But we had the technology to do 3D printing. It was a stereolithography technology back then.
Okay, and this is the 1980s.
This is
early 1990s, or when was it?
When you talk about 3D, it'd be probably late 80s, maybe early 90s.
3D printing.
Yes.
Okay.
3D printing. So yeah, 3D printing that you can buy for $1,000 or so and stick on your table. Back then, probably cost $250,000.
Wow.
Something like that. So people didn't have them in their homes, but the aerospace company could pony up and buy them because they needed them for mock-ups or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so it's actually early days of the CAD/CAM systems.
Okay.
Computer-aided design, computer-aided manufacturing.
Right.
So I had done I was very involved with the CAD/CAM systems and had some designs and needed some parts made. So I was, they were like, whoa, how do we get these CAD files from here to this facility? It was actually just probably less than 100 miles away. And they said, we'll use the internet. And I'm like, how do we do that? And so
what is the internet?
Yeah, what is the internet? Right. Actually, yes, we were FTPing.
Did you guys refer to it as the internet back then?
No.
Called it something else, right?
No. Back early on, I can't remember. There were no browsers. I guess it was called the internet, but there were no browsers. There was what was called Archie, was a way to kind of make your way around on the internet, which was a text-based thing where you could do some things. So anyway, that's my claim to fame. We were sending, I think about it now, we would never do this now.
Right.
I don't think is
The
transmit
The Russians might get a hold of it.
defense design material from one location to another over the internet.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
without I'm sure it was secure. So.
Right. All right. So that's kind of how you got your start as a degreed engineer and doing all that stuff. So let's fast forward a little bit. I don't know, let's say, what is it, the year 2000 or something, and you're working with this church in Tucson, Arizona. I mean, tell me the story of how myflock.com.
So myflock got started with just coming to church, being in just a crowd of people that you saw every week.
Right.
And so, you'd see them in the week, and then you wouldn't see them until the next week, and you see them this week. And you find, I just came to the realization, I really don't know anything about, other than the people that were my close friends.
Yeah. I
knew nothing about no one, the other people in church. And I said, wouldn't it be cool if it was really easy? Well, by this time, the web is out there. We were all on AOL or whatever.
Yeah, you've got mail.
Yes. So, wouldn't it be really cool if we had every person went and filled out a profile that just talked about where they were in their spiritual walk, where their hobbies were, where their life, major life events were, and that sort of thing. So everyone would fill out a profile, and then you could go through a thing and first just browse your fellow members and kind of get to know them a little more based on that information. And kind of the centerpiece of this thing was we created a top 10 most like me.
Okay.
So
top 10 list of most like me as far as hobbies and
right. It would go through. We had people on the web completing their profiles, and you could go through and say, well, at my church, who are the top 10 people most like me? And so it gave a report that says, here's some people that share the same music taste as you, and with the highest matchers at the top and the lowest, and then based on all the categories, and there was, 12, 15 different categories of different things. It would say, these people are the most like you. Reach out and introduce yourself and get to know them a little more. So it was more of right, today it's social networking. I chat with my friends online, and this was more of an assimilation process. How do I'm new to the church, or I was just like me, I've been there for a long time, just didn't know people. It was a tool for assimilation. And then we developed things that turned in, that other people came along and made very popular with, we called it our 1 Thessalonians 5:11 page, where you could go and in today's vocabulary, it would be right on their wall.
Okay.
And you could go and write on their profile an encouraging note, and it would.
I remember that.
Yeah, send them an email and show post it to their profile. Here's the people that have written about you, that sort of thing.
And then this guy by the name of Zuckerberg stole your idea, didn't he?
He was still in diapers then, so no, he was probably in early elementary school, maybe. I'm not sure. Let's see.
Well, this is 2001, right? So
yeah,
I don't know. When did he? He never did graduate Harvard, did he?
No, he
didn't.
I
don't remember the whole
I guess.
Deal,
Maybe
he was probably a teenager.
Junior high, teenager, probably.
Something like that. Yeah, looking for girls, which is why that's kind of how he originally. Isn't that how the whole thing with Facebook kind of started? Looking for girls at the college dorm or something. Anyhow, we won't get into that. But getting back to MyFlock, so you created this thing and you decided to call it MyFlock, right?
Yes, we called it MyFlock. I still think it's a great name.
Yeah, it is. And then you have, so you start using it at your local church.
Yes.
And then what happens?
We made it available. Actually, I briefed my pastor and his wife, and they like, oh, this is great. We need to, because I've built it kind of, as a hobby at nights. And
right. Yeah, because you're still working your job is still making missiles and stuff, right?
Yes, it was. So, so I put this thing together, and the pastor said, oh, we need to start. Let's launch this thing, and we launched it at our church, and then we set it up to make it available for other churches.
Okay.
So the system was set up so that others, and actually your church, you had left our church.
Yeah, I got fired or kicked out or something. I don't remember. No, I left your church and actually eventually moved to Kansas and started a church in Kansas.
Yes, you were the
executive
pastor at our church.
Yeah, your church I was executive, and I was sent off
to become a senior pastor.
With blessings to start a church, and we started using it when I was in Kansas.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So,
and they still used it. I mean, I've been back here now 10 years, and they've still been using it. I think they just recently shifted into something completely different. But my church used it for 17 years or something.
Wow,
something like
cool.
that. Anyhow,
so one of the things, so that thing kind of morphed. It started off as and churches really didn't have websites a lot back then.
Right.
I mean, it was not real common to have the church have a website. So we called it an online community for the church, and it was actually adjacent to the church website if the church had a website.
Right.
And then we quickly found that we had all the members' information in this thing. We had all their addresses and phone numbers and emails, and we thought, we got all this stuff in a central database. Let's create a church management system based on this information. So we started building out tools to send out newsletters and track contributions and that sort of thing. So that's kind of and then eventually we added the ability to create websites for churches.
Yeah. And so when my church, I had a guy at my church who was doing websites. So when I started my church, he made a website for us, and then we used MyFlock kind of as the back end to do those things you just mentioned, church management stuff, finances, and kind of connect people and all that stuff. And then I got fed up with my guy because I couldn't get him to update our website very much. He created it, but then kind of like walked away from it, even though he's still part of the church. It's like couldn't get him to do it, And
so that was a common problem back then.
Yeah, it's very common. And, honestly, it's still a problem today. I was just talking to somebody the other day about it. So what the nice thing about MyFlock was we went ahead and incorporated the actual website templates in MyFlock. So not only were we using the back end system to manage people and stuff, but then we actually created, a homepage. And they used that just up until, again, I've been back here in Tucson now for 10 years, but the church I helped start was still using it up until, I think, a couple months ago. But, yeah, I mean, so and the nice thing I liked about it was I didn't really have to know code to make it work, to do it.
Right.
And so I'm sure you probably remember me calling you at times going, I can't get this to work. How do I make this happen? Why are the images so big, or something like that. But it was really fairly easy to do. I thought I did a pretty good job at our first website. So
and you could keep it up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's easy to keep up, easy to do, and if you get stuck, we can always help. So that's kind of the story of MyFlock, starting in 2001, and you're still working for this aerospace industry, so you're still doing kind of the MyFlock thing on the side. And then tell us a little more about the evolution, so to speak, of the company here, JSL Solutions.
This probably won't get into any of the intricate details we went through.
No, you don't have to go through all that. But
we went through kind of a merger acquisition process with another company that was kind of getting into the space for a while, and then that came back apart and pulled things back, and I guess the evolution led to. Streaming was a thing.
Streaming video.
And we at my home church had moved. We were a little bit of a vagabond church, and we met in different locations, and we're meeting in high schools and different rented facilities, and we finally got our own facility, and so we started streaming because we had access to very reliable internet.
Right. Yeah.
And we had built out all of these interactivity tools through MyFlock, chat rooms and member maps of where everybody was and that sort of thing. We thought, this is a natural to take all of these interactive features and add them to the streaming platform. So we're talking here now not just video, because a lot of people,
they think of streaming video as there's video. There it is. There's video, and that's it. But with streamingchurch.tv, you incorporated something very interactive, so that people actually, there's a place people could chat while they watch the video, chat with each other, ask questions.
Yes, there was.
Online.
About this time, or maybe even a little later, this notion of I can create another campus online. Mm-hmm. And so, in order to have a campus online, you've got to be able to do things that you would do if you were going to another remote campus somewhere else, where you could participate, you could meet and greet
people,
and pray with people, and participate, be seen, and see others, and that whole thing.
Receive an offering,
talk with people,
go, okay.
Yes. So
we
took all of the interactivity tools that were built up out of the MyFlock era and set up a platform so that they would be available on Streaming Church. Okay.
So streaming video came with streamingchurch.tv. Mind you, this is all under the umbrella of JSL Solutions, and then eventually mobile apps came along.
And eventually got into the mobile apps space. Yeah. So we just started dabbling and exploring, and saw that we can develop some mobile apps, and said, well, let's start offering mobile apps for churches. Yeah. So,
and that's the brand for that, so to speak, is churchapplive.com. That's the brand for that, although if you do streaming video, you get that as well. You get that with no extra charge. So during this whole process, and there's been some other things. I mean, you started greeter.church.
Yes.
Which I think one church is using it, mine. But and that's, I mean, maybe that will take off later. I don't know. That's an opportunity to monitor a website and greet and chat with people when they check out your website.
Yeah. So that's, I'm I don't know, inventor, entrepreneur. So I like dabble. So there's definitely things that I've worked on that.
Sure. No, nothing. No shame. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean it won't take off either. I mean, it might take off later. I mean, somebody might listening to this podcast might think that's a great idea. I want to help do that or whatever.
Absolutely, a real person there on your website to
you could
answer questions and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and then and you got another idea which I'll talk about in a moment. But let me ask you a couple personal questions.
Yes.
So during this journey, I mean, have you ever? Because I know there's pastors and key volunteers listening to this podcast, and I'm sure a lot of them kind of have this, they have ideas too. They have entrepreneur ideas maybe, or even stuff related to ministry, or maybe not really. I mean, how do you kind of keep going on that? Because, you start something, but then you're also working another job. You got 4 kids.
Yes.
A wife, of course, who just walked in, by the way. And, I mean, how do you get the energy to keep doing that and maintain even when you have the ups and downs of life?
I don't know. Time management is very important.
Time management. Okay.
Yes.
So, because it does, I mean, that's true. It definitely takes a lot of discipline, right? I mean, if you're working especially like you were working another job, I mean, of course, you're not doing that anymore. This is full time for you and has been for years. But, during that time with everything going on, I mean, did you ever feel like quitting?
No, never.
Okay. Never did.
Never felt like quitting. No.
Did you ever get discouraged?
Oh yeah, it's definitely discouraging times. So I mean, I talked about this kind of acquisition merger thing that was really, really exciting, and then became really, really frustrating. So.
And that was a company that liked what you were doing and was going to work with you. You were never completely out of it. You were involved.
Oh yeah, I was definitely involved. Yeah, it was more of a merger acquisition kind of thing than sold the business, I'm going to go do something else kind of thing. So was still very much involved.
So you were still involved, but it didn't work out because they obviously had a different vision and different probably values, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, it was It was a company that was that was primarily in a different market, and they saw that this church could be really lucrative, and so the heart was not in the right place.
They weren't really trying to serve so much as they were
Right.
Let's make a profit off this.
Yes, there are 400,000 churches in the U.S.
Right.
We can make some money on this.
All right, so that was a short period of time there. So, I mean, what's the advice for people out there listening to this podcast?
Well, it's funny because I worked with a bunch of different pastors, and there's guys that I'd worked with, one on the East Coast for a long time, and he was just a fountain of ideas and things. And so, a good example is he'd call me one day and he said, I got this great idea. He said, what's going to happen here is you need to go and build this and make it happen, and I'll give you half of the proceeds. And I'm
so
going,
build it for me.
Yes, build it for me is my idea, and so therefore I get half of everything. I don't remember what it was, and I had to explain to this guy, a pastor named Peter. I said, ideas are, the ideas are a dime a dozen.
That's right.
I said, the making it happen is sitting down and building something, showing it to somebody, getting their feedback, making it better, getting it rejected, getting one guy liking it, and it's a slog of work to make something happen. It's not this, I've got this great idea for a new seatbelt, I'm gonna make millions.
So your point is it doesn't happen overnight.
It doesn't happen overnight, and the idea is maybe 3% of it. I mean, sometimes there's some great ideas, but it comes in the doing and the working that.
And it's a persistence that you have to be consistent and persistent, right? I mean, you have to be able to. What's the word? Grit?
Yeah. You got to kind of work yourself. Yes, you got to have the grit to keep going and not give up and keep pushing, and all the while being wise enough to know when to quit certain things.
Yeah, exactly. So we got a couple minutes. I don't know if you want. I didn't. So when I actually sprung this on Steve this morning, this interview, because. Normally we're interviewing other people or we're talking among ourselves about things. And I was telling them, we need to interview this guy who's, started this thing 17, 18 years ago serving churches. And he's going, well, okay, but sounds like a competitor. And I was like, no, it's you. But let me ask you this. I say all that because I didn't really give you a heads up. So I know you have a real heart to see churches do things right, to use technology right, to use streaming video in a way to really grow and reach people, reach their community, reach their world, as far as, and even using social media. I know you've got some ideas here. I don't know how much you want to talk about this, but something to the point of being available to help churches in almost like a consulting, coaching kind of a method. You want to address that for a moment?
We're just getting launched right now?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Or even the vision. If you don't want to go into details, you don't have to.
Yeah. We were just, we're, as you mentioned at the top of our show, we're a business/ministry. We're a ministry first, so we have a heart for serving other churches, and we want to see churches succeed. And as I tell a lot of people, I'm in a unique position in that I can go through and participate in a myriad of churches in their church services from my desktop, from my computer, so I can see where people are doing just a really good job with using the technology and people that are not doing as well. Yeah. And so the heart is to kind of move everyone to another layer. Yeah,
to a higher level.
To a higher level.
Right.
So we were driving down the path of, let's put together a series of training courses, and where we could kind of walk people through how to get things aligned, what the best in class is doing. So we're working with another guy / company now that's just done incredible things for his ministry and the ministries that he's touched. So
we've known him for at least a couple of years now, right?
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, so
we'll have him on one of these days. We've had him on in the past.
We've had him on in the past.
We'll have him on again.
Yes, he was the guy that talked about simulated live.
That's right.
Simulated
That's
live,
right.
yeah.
Simulated live. So the idea is to bring about something that will help ministries and help churches do even better than what they're doing now.
Yes.
With technology. And that can be streaming video.
Yep.
And other things.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's something to think about coming up here in the horizon.
Yes.
Sounds exciting. All right. Good deal. Well, we're out of time. So if you'd like to give us a little bit of feedback on this, maybe you have some questions to ask Steve about maybe how he got to where he is today and where we're going and that kind of stuff, you just send him an email. You can just send it to support@streamingchurch.tv. Or if you want to get personal, send it to steve@streamingchurch.tv. There you go. But we'd love to hear from you. Love to hear your thoughts on this. And it's great. It's just a pleasure working with you, Steve, for these years, and looking forward to many more. And we're out of time.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for allowing me to interview you today. All right, folks. Again, thank you for listening to the Church Solutions Podcast. My name is Phil Thompson. He's Steve Lacy. We will catch you next time on another edition. Take care.